Don't you just love it when one beautiful image does all the hard work for you? One giant floral and two unique cards. Well, hello, crafty friends, and welcome to my channel. Today is all about maximizing your stamps and playing with vibrant color palette. We are keeping it clean and simple, and of course, adding a little shimmer. For today's project, I'll be pulling out some vibrant watercolors and simply enjoying the process. No pressure, no strict techniques, just having fun and letting the colors do their thing. With pops of bright pinks, rich purples, and beautiful fresh greens, we are going to bring this absolutely stunning floral image to life. Now, the image that I'm coloring comes from this Graceful Flowers stamp set by Simon's Stamp, and it's truly a showstopper. This set features a gorgeous large floral bouquet, which is what we'll be using as the main focal point for our card, along with a couple of smaller coordinating floral stamps and a lovely set of stems with leaves. To top it all off, it also includes some beautiful sentiments in elegant scripty fonts that add the perfect finishing touch. I'll start by stamping the image onto a watercolor panel. Now, I'll place this panel onto my Sizzix stamp and stencil platform for this step, mainly because I'm working with a wider card panel and I want to make sure that it is large enough to fit the stamp beautifully. The usual Altenew stamp wheel that I use is much smaller than the panel that I'm using here. The paper I'm using is the watercolor paper by Your Paper Insider, and I truly can't recommend it enough. It's a fantastic option for both paper crafters and artists who love watercoloring. The paper handles water beautifully and holds up really well. I placed the stamp towards the lower portion of this panel and then prepared the entire surface with my anti-static powder tool. Since we will be heat embossing this image using some absolutely shiny, sparkly gold embossing powder. Now I went ahead and stamped the image about 3 times just to be sure that the embossing ink reached every part of the stamp. This is something I especially like to do when working on white cardstock with clear embossing ink, as it helps ensure a clean, crisp, embossed result every time. Now, once I was happy with the impression, I poured on the Simon's Stamp Gold Embossing Powder, making sure that the entire image was fully covered and ready to be heat embossed. I funneled all of that excess gold embossing powder back into the jar, and now we are ready to heat set the image using our heat gun. Since this is a larger stamped image, I like to make sure that the heat gun is fully warmed up before bringing it anywhere close to the paper. I start by heating up the back of the paper, and then once that's done, we move to the front of the paper. The watercolor cardstock is usually quite thick as compared to your regular cardstocks. So warping is definitely reduced, but it's still important to keep the heat gun moving and avoid concentrating the heat in one spot for too long. This helps prevent unnecessary warping and ensures that the embossing powder melts evenly. As soon as the powder starts melting, the image instantly comes to life and looks absolutely stunning with that beautiful sparkly gold finish. At this point, I will take my time and not rush the process because I want all of that embossing powder to set evenly. Now, even with all those precautions, my panel did warp a little, but that's totally okay. I'm going to leave it as is for now and move on to the watercoloring process. We can always flatten and straighten the panel later towards the end of the video. Now, before I jump into the watercoloring process, I like to have a few essentials within reach. I keep a clean paper towel nearby to wipe off my brushes or to soak up any extra water or color that might splash onto my glass mat. I also have a few different sizes of brushes ready to go so I can easily switch depending on how large or small the area is that I'm coloring. Along with that, I have a cup of clean water and, of course, my watercolor palette. I like to work in phases, and the first phase is all about coloring the petals of the main flowers. I'll start by adding color to one of those petals on the center flower and then move on to every alternate petal. This helps make sure that the color does not bleed into the petals right next to each other. Now, since we did heat emboss this image, the raised embossing does create a bit of a well that helps keep the colors contained. But I still prefer to be extra careful to avoid any unwanted bleeding. I continue building up the color by adding pigment and water little by little to each petal, adjusting it as I go until I'm happy with the depth and the intensity of the color on every single petal. I like to begin with a very light wash of color as my starting point. This acts as the base layer, giving each petal a soft foundation of color. Then, using just the tip of my brush, I'll add a bit more pigment along the edges or near the base of each petal and allow the water that's already on the surface to do the work. The color naturally flows and blends, creating those beautiful organic variations that watercolor is known for. Just like I mentioned at the very beginning, this process is all about having fun with the colors and letting the water and the pigments work their magic together. There's no stress here. This style of watercoloring is incredibly stress free, relaxing, and honestly so therapeutic, not just to create but also to watch. Well, I started with this beautiful pink, but once I was finished with the pink flowers, I bought in a few more vibrant shades and soft blends for the remaining of the florals. Towards the end of the video, you'll see me pulling in some beautiful shades of greens to color in the leaves and really bring the entire bouquet together. Well, now I'm going to turn on some music and give you guys a little time to relax and enjoy the coloring process. So sit back, unwind, and enjoy the soothing music along with this calm and peaceful coloring session. I'll check back in with you towards the end of the video where I'll show you how I added some little tiny finishing details and how we cut this panel into two A2 size pieces to create a pair of beautiful cuts. Once I finished with all the coloring, I set the panels aside to dry completely before cutting it down into two pieces measuring 4 by 5 and quarter inches each. I then heat embossed birthday sentiments in gold directly over the floral panels and added a few touches of gold sequins from This Calls for Confetti for a little extra sparkle. Now, to finish off the cards, I mounted each of those panels onto green card bases, which perfectly tie together with the green foliage from the watercolor images. And just like that, we have two beautiful cards created from one single image. Well, thank you so much for being so patient with me and for relaxing with me all the way to the end of the video. I'll have links to all the supplies that I used to create these cards listed in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.